Welcome, Humanities 2, Shasta College. Hope you are getting adjusted to the new virtual reality of the lives we're leading now. Um, Hope you guys are doing good out there. The spring-like weather's lovely. Obviously, we need rain and moisture, or we're going to be pretty sad this summer. Um, this lecture formally starts off the course. Please get the textbook soon, because the textbook is our blueprint to this class. And I use it to go along to give me guidance, to you get you in-depth guidance. So the things I talk about, like in these lectures, I kind of skim the surface because I try to make these lectures not too long, 20 minutes. And the book goes into more detail. Yes, you can research this stuff online. You'll probably have to. So if you don't have the book, you'll have to Google this stuff or Wikipedia or wherever it is you find your research. Please do. Today we're going to start, because we're starting a month early. I'm going to go kind of fast and furious through this fast and furious. I'm saying I'm going to be cutting some parts. How would you know what I'm going to be cutting? You haven't taken the course before. I don't know going to be cutting, but this first part, I'm just beginning on chapter 19. It is the big early days of the book. The reason why it's important is because the world is changing. This whole course is about when we're coming in from the old times, the old days, um, to what they call the Renaissance, the new world order of humanitism and philosophy, and things were getting better in the world. People were living better lives. That's why things started getting better, folks. More people were starting to learn how to read and write, and their needs expanded also. They were no longer satisfied with just farming and having basic food to sustain their very short lives. There was no modern medicine, folks, no antibiotics, no tetanus shots, no vaccines. So their lifespan was pretty short. If they lived into their 40s without something befalling them, that was considered a long life. So we're in some tricky times, but that's all they know. But they're working on changing that. And in this era, in this chapter 19, you'll see that it's roughly 200 years from 1400 to 1600 that a boatload of life altering humanities took place. We are in the Elizabeth era of Queen Elizabeth is ruling so much of Europe, England, of course, but people look to England for leadership. The United States is barely existing yet, so we're not in the game at all. Asia is having their own flourishing, but because the oceans are so vast, the communication between these two vast areas of the globe, the community, there's not much information coming in. We're starting to find out, but it takes a long time to find out what's going on the opposite side of the world. Usually it comes in the form of trade. That's why a lot of port cities in the Netherlands and Amsterdam became very, very important to the blossoming of this Renaissance. Um, During this era, important things took place, one of which had nothing to do with art or writing or painting. It had to do everything to do with plumbing. In Florence, Italy, they figured out how to construct a sewer system. I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, That was really important. Up until then, now all the waste product was lots of times just thrown out on the street. Lots of disease, folks, when you're living around human waste. And the Italians figured out how to flush the waste out into the ocean, let the ocean be polluted, get the waste out of the cities, and people became healthier. And the cities weren't so stagnant with disease like hepatitis and typhoid and all that good stuff that comes with that. Didn't smell as bad either. Now, we still don't have flushing toilets like we're used to now, but we're getting close. So, the sewage system took the waste product and they threw it into the sewer. And it was like a river, an underground river that would take it out to dispose it away from where people were living. Yes, I'm going to post a little video clip on it. You'll see how important it was. And who's hanging out in Florence, which is they almost consider the ground floor of the Renaissance, the sculptor and painter Michelangelo. Maybe you know who that is. He's famous for painting powerful religious imagery in the Sixtine Chapel. If you go to Florence, hope you do one day, you'll see his paintings. They're world famous. I'm not going to talk about him right yet because I don't want to talk about painters yet. But he was in this era, and things were looking better than ever before. People, because of trade, were kind of prospering, and they had extra money to spend on goods and services and entertainment like theater, and that was starting to flourish. A young writer by the name of William Shakespeare was writing plays in England, wrote some of our most powerful theater in the history of the planet. They're still performing Shakespeare's plays 450 years after his death. Do you know Shakespeare at all? Most students know Romeo and Juliet from high school, but that's to me, one of his lesser plays. You don't know Shakespeare until you get into the heavy tragedies like Hamlet and Macbeth and King Lear, the heavyweight stuff. We're going to be going into depth the next time we see each other next week on Shakespeare. I'll probably spend 2 entire weeks on it. So be prepared to go down the Shakespeare rabbit hole and be prepared to ask yourself the simple question: to be or not to be? That is the question. We're still asking ourselves that. It is the classic existential question: who am I? Why do I matter? I'm trying to get across in this entire course: who are we and why do we matter? Can you answer that question about yourself? Who are you? Why do you matter? We're going to be This is going to be popping up throughout this whole course. So we've got William Shakespeare writing plays, we got Michelangelo painting paintings, and in the world of this era, the Catholic Church coming out of Rome, the Holy Roman Catholic Church, really supremely powerful. They have their own army, folks. And yes, they send it out there a lot. They send it out to start new churches through the power of the sword, folks, not through the power of preaching the Bible or Jesus. through the power of might. And they went throughout the lands with the armies. And there was a time where they went to war in the Middle East, the holy wars between Christianity and Muslim Islam. They went on for 100 years. We'll talk about that later. There was a religious figure during this time, very dedicated person named Martin Luther. No, it's not that Martin Luther you're thinking about. This is Martin Luther from these times, these Elizabethan times. He was a scholar and an intellect, and he did not agree with the Catholic Church. So he went against the Catholic Church, and he was put on trial for going against the Catholic Church, and he could have been put to death, folks. That's how powerful the church was. And he came up with a new doctrine that changed the entire face of the landscape of religion and kickstarted the humanities big time. Your first essay, which I'm not going to sign yet, won't be assigned to this week until next week, is going to be about Martin Luther. I'll be posting documentaries and things for you to read. Check it out. You'll be surprised. He was considered a heretic in his days because he went against the church's will. He didn't like their all powerful use of might and violence to get their word out. And it broke away and started essentially the Protestant church. It was a huge undertaking for these days when there was very little literature. There's no internet, folks, no social network. You had to get it out there other ways. You had to be creative. A writer in Spain named Cervantes wrote a book called Don Quixote. Maybe you've heard about it. Wrote it during this era, this flourishing of Renaissance. He wrote a novel, folks. Think about it. Now, let me tell you what a novel is. It's a work of fiction. It's a book, a work of fiction about an old, crazy man, Don Quixote, who thought he was a knight in shining armor. He was not. He thought he was on a beautiful white stallion. He was not. And he went out to fight the good fight against good, against evil, slay the dragons. There was no dragons, folks. Sorry, Game of Thrones people. No dragons. And he traveled with his companion Sancho Panza, who was his sidekick, and took care of him. And he was a realist. And Don was probably dementia or had Alzheimer's, but he was all about fighting the good fight. He was all about the little guy taking on the big guy. And so he would attack windmills, which were popular in that era of getting water into farmlands and stuff. Their windmills were everywhere. And he envisioned windmills as evil dragons. And he would attack them, even though they were just windmills. So whenever you hear that term, he's fighting at windmills, that means essentially you're fighting an illusion that doesn't exist. Yeah, that's where that comes from. Anyway, so all this is happening in this era that early in the book covers chapter 19. I will try to find documentaries for you to look at on sewers and on Don Quixote, and I'll post those in modules tonight or tomorrow. So be looking for them. All announcements. Hope you're getting used to Canvas. Hope you've used it before because everything we do is going to be on Canvas. You know how to get a hold of me. It's in the syllabus. If you have issues, by next week, your books should start trickling in. If not, we are going to have to deal with that. There's no assignments due this week. I might have you do another conversation. We'll see how I feel about that tomorrow. We'll see. I don't want to overload you guys too early on in this first week because we're just getting used to everything. The system being a month late into the course, and getting to know each other. Thank you for your participation in the discussions. It helps a lot. That's how we get to know each other. What else? Keep this brief tonight. So the old world is waning, and a new butterfly is about to appear, and boy, is it a beauty. And on that note, I'll see you guys next week, where the story of these humanities will continue.